tell me about your experience having COVID?
Yes, at the beginning of November, even despite my efforts of wearing a mask and social distancing, I did contract COVID-19. It was horrible. The first day, I felt bad. I was sick, I had a fever, and I was very tired. The second day, I knew I needed to see a doctor. I could barely move. I was in the waiting room at the clinic and I wanted to lay on the floor, but I thought they would get an ambulance for me, so I stayed in the chair. But I was so sick, and they were worried about me. They did an EKG, they ordered a chest x-ray, and this was all within the 24 hours of developing symptoms. This progressed and stayed, I stayed ill for a good 6-7 weeks. It was terrible. The fatigue was awful. I would take my dog out and have to come in and lay on the couch for a few minutes just because I couldn't be upright anymore. The cough, the difficulty breathing. Any of you with lung problems, I don't have lung problems, but I've been a nurse for a very long time, so I've witnessed them and I've heard descriptions. This was difficult. This was difficult to put air into your lungs. They were stiff, they were thick, they weren't wet. It wasn't like that. It was difficult to breathe. It was exhausting. And then the coughing was exhausting, and there was not a lot that would control that. The physician put me on steroids after a little while because the breathing was so bad and my lungs were so bad. Luckily, I was able to stay out of the hospital, even though my son did at times think I needed to go. He was concerned because he thought I looked like I was dead half the time. But I was able to stay home, and I did okay. In the fifth, what is so frustrating about COVID is that it's not one and done. You don't have it's not like the flu where you get sick, you have a couple rough days, then you kind of get better. COVID lingers. And in the 5th week of having this, I developed blood clots in my leg. And it wasn't from a lack of activity, it was from the inflammatory response the body has related to the COVID. Everything in your body is reacting to that virus. It is angry the virus is in there. And it does cause inflammation in your organs, in your brain. People have fogginess. People are getting COVID pneumonia in later 5th and 6th weeks of having the illness. So it's a long-term kind of illness, and there's a lot of evidence out there that in the 6 months post-COVID that you have a lot of lingering kind of symptoms that you have to deal with. Luckily, I believe that I'm over most of it. I still have issues with breathing at times. It feels like I get short of breath, but that's basically my experience. It was terrible. You can't will yourself well with this. And I'm one of those people that's up the next day after surgery walking in the halls. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do better. This did not allow it. No matter how much I wanted to be better, I couldn't be better. I was sick.
I'm sure the vaccine was a welcome breakthrough for you then. What made you decide to get it?
It's my responsibility as a healthcare worker to make sure that I offer protection to all of the people that I'm around, including residents, patients, other staff members. That's part of my responsibility as a healthcare worker. In addition to that, my dad is 80 years old. I want to make sure that under no circumstances do I expose him to this, and then myself, because having COVID once does not exclude you from having it again. The first time was horrible. I do not want to go through the second time. I do not want to go through that inflammatory response with the difficulty breathing and potentially being in the hospital again, or being in the hospital the next time. So the vaccine is amazing. I did have the first dose. The first dose was there's the side effects from that. And so I'll tell you a little bit. The first day was fine. The second day I was at home working, and I had chills for like 6 hours, like kind of chills. And I had a fever of 101.3. But with that, I was still very excited because those symptoms meant that I was developing immunity. So I was all in. It's like, give it to me. And that fever and those chills were nothing compared to the COVID illness. So it was totally doable. A little Tylenol, a little Motrin, a hot cup of tea, and all was good. Whereas with COVID, you can't have that. It doesn't get much better while you're sick. And actually, I'm getting my second shot today. I'm so excited.
Do you have any final thoughts for anybody thinking about getting the vaccine?
Don't be intimidated by the side effects. You can do this. You've been through a whole lot more in your life. You've had illnesses, you've had broken toes. There's all kinds of things out there that sound awful till you experience them, and it's not so much. Same with the vaccine. The side effects in this are manageable. They are not anything that you can't do. And I think in our profession, working with the residents that we do, we have an obligation not only to the people that we work with, but to society as a whole, to make sure that we stop this pandemic and we're part of it, part of the solution. So I encourage everyone to get the vaccination.
Thank you.
You're welcome.